Hey there, I'm John from Cosplay Armoury. This video is brought to you in association with Anime League. Today we're going to be making a bow from the online game Dragon's Prophet. Okay, so the first thing I've done is sketched out the bow and broken it down into its separate parts in layers. This is the best idea when you're making a new creation so that you know exactly how to build it up from scratch. The first thing that we're going to be making is the arms of the bow, the handle and the fist guard. Because they're all wooden pieces, and then we'll be moving on to the detailing, which most likely be made out of foam a bit later on. Okay, so we've finished cutting out all the parts out of paper, and now we've got to transfer those onto a medium that we can work with to make the bow. So what I've chosen for this is to use some hardwood that was just laying around my garden. You can get other bits of wood at your local DIY stores. B&Q is a good place to go, and just find something that's going to be thick enough but that you can also cut, that's going to be able to make the bow. Okay, so now we've drawn all the pieces, I'm going to need to cut them out. For this I'm going to be using my bandsaw, but you could also use something like a jigsaw or just a normal wooden saw. The problem with both of those is they're a bit slower and not quite so accurate. So I'm going to be using this, but you use whatever equivalent is available to you. Okay, let's go. Okay, so now that we've finished cutting out all the pieces, what we're going to be doing is sanding and shaping them. To do this we're going to be using a drill sander, which is just a normal drill. It's got a sanding disc attached. You can get this from any DIY store. B&Q is a good place to go. And we're going to be using this to take off all the edges and just round it off, make it look really nice. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so as you can see, I've just rounded off the whole front of this arm of the bow. Now, once you do this to all your parts, you can be ready to move on to the next stage. But for editing purposes, we're just going to jump straight forwards. Okay, so now that we've got all our parts cut out, shaped and sanded, what we're going to need to do is glue the main body together so that we can get on working with the details made out of foam and other materials. So to do this I'm going to use a high strength wood glue called Cascamite. It's a resin wood glue which needs to mix with water. Okay, now that we've got the bow all glued together and the glue's drying, what we're going to do is work on some small details that we can cut out ready to be stuck on once the main body of the bow has dried. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by using the template from the arm, and we're going to be constructing a small piece that fits on just around the arm near the base. So we'll just draw around the template, and what this is going to do is serve as a guideline to show us how big we need to make our detail areas. What I'm using here is MDF, or medium density fibreboard. It's really easy to cut and it's quite strong, it's good to work with, especially if you're doing small things like this. So what I'm going to be making is a shell type detail. I'm just going to be freehanding over the top of the template here. Okay, so now that the bow's all glued together with the made wooden body bits, what we've done is drilled some holes in the top and bottom and then put a bit of elastic through to act as your bowstring. So the next thing is to do all the detail areas. Yesterday we cut out some MDF bits which will act as the overlay plates onto the foam, which will fit on quite nicely. Okay, so what we're going to do now is get on the foam. So what you're going to need is some paper and some scissors and a pen for this bit. Okay, so now that we've got all our templates cut out, you'll notice they got small numbers on them which tells me how many times I need to cut this piece out. What we're going to be using to cut them out with is some foam. Now you can use craft foam, but what I prefer is camping mats. They're really cheap and you get a lot of foam and it's a good thickness, which means that what you're making will be quite stiff and look really nice. So let's just trace around our shapes. Okay, so now that we've got all our foam sections cut out, what we need to do is glue them together so that they'll be able to fit on the bow. To do this, what we're going to be using is a hot glue gun. Be careful because it is very hot and you can burn yourself, but it's really good for gluing foam together. So what we need to do is take the glue gun and put a line along the edge that you need to glue to the other piece. Okay, so now that you've got all your pieces cut out and stuck together, the next thing to do is assemble them onto your bow and mark out the positions of where they need to be, so that when you glue them together you don't make any mistakes and you don't have to end up taking parts off or moving parts around. So the first thing you want to do is start with the base pieces, which are the pieces that are closest to the body. and figure out a rough position of where you think they should go, and then just slot them into place. Don't need to be held down particularly. Just make sure you've got an idea of where you want them to go. So for this, I think that'll be about right. And then you just work your way down, overlapping the pieces, making sure you're happy with the positions that they're in. Okay, so that's one side roughly done. Pieces aren't held on at all, so they will move about a bit. But what you've got now is a rough guideline of where you need to put your glue. So we're just going to take our Sharpie pen and mark around the corners of each of these areas. Okay, so once you've got that marked out, just simply take all your pieces away, and then starting from the top, I'll add a little bit of glue onto the bow using your hot glue gun. Make sure it's spread out quite thick, but not too much so that it'll push out too much. And then simply fit your piece into place and hold it down for a minute. Okay, so now that we've got all our details stuck on securely, what I've done is trimmed up the foam to make it look nicer, done a little bit of sanding work, and now we've just got to get to the painting. So the first thing we want to do is put on a base coat, and then we're going to add the details afterwards once the base coat's dry. Okay, so we've finished the base coats on the bow. We've also added some details, and the bow's pretty much done at this stage. We need some minor touch-ups around certain areas, but for all intents and purposes it's pretty much finished. We hope you enjoyed the video, and if you've got any questions, just post a comment. We'll try and get back to you in the next few days. Any sort of FAQs will be posted in the description of the video, and we hope you enjoyed.